Like when you look at Gen Z men as a whole, 52% Republican, 34 Democrat. When you look at Gen Z women, 58% Democrat, 37% Republican. And so it's clear, and we've seen this reflected in everything, where women are going more liberal than they've ever gone before, and men are going more conservative than they've ever gone before. Now, what's interesting was when you look at who voted which way for Trump, and they broke it down into 4 categories. So it wasn't just men and women. They broke it down into 4 categories, and it was minority women, minority men, white women, white men. White men were the most conservative group, right? And I'm sorry, let me break this down further. Under the age of 20. That's an important component of this, right? Under the age of 20, white men overwhelmingly for Trump, like more conservative than we've tracked in like decades. White women voted for Trump, right? Young white women voted for Trump, right? Minority men voted for Trump. Minority women overwhelmingly Democrat. And so that's one of the things when you take into consideration. Now, if you look at all of Gen Z, yes, it's generally skewed. When you start breaking down the numbers a little bit more granularly, that's where you start to see that, okay, well, there's even a divide among women within Gen Z, and the younger women in Gen Z, if younger white women are starting to break more conservative, and minority women are still very, very much like almost unilaterally, and
they haven't really shifted a whole lot.
No, there's been very
at all.
Very
it's
little
been
movement
mostly men. It's been largely men that have shifted hard to the right, and you see it like here in the polling. So this is the bigger breakdown from Pew Research this came out just a couple days ago.
What's interesting is they don't necessarily on the 18 to 29 year olds. If you look at there's like a disparity between left and right, because there's like a swath of people that aren't considering themselves necessarily on the right, but they definitely don't consider themselves the left. Like they won't put themselves in either camp. Whereas over like in the older generations, like millennial and everybody else, it doesn't quite fit like that.
You know what's interesting about this poll is that the Zoomer men are more right wing than the millennial men.
Yeah.
Which again is indicative of what I'm trying to get at here. I don't think that the Democratic Party realizes that they have made generational enemies at this point.
Well, and if we want to, I think that's a very good way to put it. I think the other thing too that do me real quick, look, Google real quick, the person that the Democratic National Committee spent $20 million on, because they said, look, we've got a problem with young men. We're having a problem we're bleeding young men. We need to get young men back into the party. And so they spent all this money doing this analysis. And we read off like the verbiage. The verbiage made it sound like they were explorers, scientific explorers, analyzing a jungle tribe. Like, what makes this particular culture tick? And they're just talking about young American men. And so they said, well, we've got to figure out how to reach out to these young American men. And let's see who they put in charge of that process for reaching out to young American men. Do you have her picture? Picture?
Okay.
That's what I want to see. Yeah.
I know her.
I want to show you who the Democrat Party thought would be a wonderful ambassador to young men to try to figure out why they're no longer interested in becoming openly hostile to the Democratic Party. We'll go to, it was Olivia.
It's like Olivia or Oliviana. I can't remember. And her last name starts with a J, but it's
If I find this before you're going to be, I'm going to be like, what the heck, man? Okay. Yeah, Democrat. But anyways, they picked this person who is obviously a very far left wing progressive female, right? Young female. And that was the person that they put in charge of like their outreach to men. And it wasn't something.
It's hilarious.
Yes.
Yeah. Here you go. This is who they put in charge of reaching out to young men. And she went on like on all these left wing podcasts, and she's like, "Well, I love frat boys. I'm going to do a great job speaking with all these like college age men." First off, I don't even need to say it. Why on earth are you going to put a woman in charge of reaching out and speaking to young men and bringing them on board. Like
every single poll out there.
Because women know everything in the Democratic
How
Party.
dare
women can
you
do
even-
everything that men can do.
Well, and you would see
include
her,
speaking to them better than
you would see her go onto podcasts, and she'd be going on podcasts with these like liberal men, and it was painful to watch. Like as someone, for instance, if they really wanted to do a good job of this, who's that one? Is it Galloway?
Scott Galloway.
Scott Galloway.
Yeah.
If they really wanted to go to someone who's on the left and talk to them about, hey, how do we appeal to young men right now? They would have gone to Scott Galloway. And again, I find Scott Galloway frustrating because I feel like he understands part of the problem, but he understands the problem just enough to get the messaging right, not to actually fix the policies. That's my problem with Scott Galloway. But he's a smart guy, and he doesn't buy into a lot of the crap that the left is pushing. He actually did a really interesting interview with Jake Tapper on this, where they were talking about the problem. And again, he would have been good enough to get your messaging better. But no, they and this is the part where, again, when we say that I don't think they've learned it, it's who in their right mind would have picked her to be the outreach person? Who? Like, imagine that in reverse. Oh my gosh, we're really bleeding young, women voters. They're no longer coming in voting for us. Like they're just gone. How do we reach out to them? Oh, I know. We're gonna pick Andrew Tate to go and appeal to young women voters in America. Like, everybody would know, to include Andrew Tate, that's stupid, right? Like that's not who your spokesman is going to be if you're trying to reach people with a different perspective and potentially warm them to your way of thinking about particular ideas. That's not who you would pick to appeal to young liberal women, right? But that's what they did. They picked a young liberal woman to appeal to conservative men. And once again, we got lectured at, right? It's like, or they got lectured at. They're like, oh, this didn't work. And so they eventually shut it down, but not before they were dedicated. I don't know how much money they actually burned through.
Oh, they spent $20 million studying
Well, they
the
dedicated
problem.
$20 million. Is that how much they actually spent?
They spent $20 million building some. In fact, actually,
I don't think 20 million was just for the study. I think it was 20 million. Study was a part of it, and then the outreach was a part of it.
Obviously, we're not going to go through this whole thing.
Yeah.
But I'll bring it up so that way the audience, if they want to take a look, they can. This is the thing that Democrats put together. They called it SAM, Speaking with American Men. It's almost like they're treating them like an alien species that they're studying, and it's natural and
Well, that's what I was saying. It was like they're going into the Amazon to talk to a tribe that had never been contacted.
So this was their strategic plan. They went through, here's what they think about work, the Democratic Party, housing, the future. They talked about the huge shift. They shifted 12 points to the right, which again, that's double the national average from 2024. And then they did all of this, like they spent millions of dollars trying to understand, where do they get their news from? I'll tell you right now, they get their news from YouTube, Discord, Twitter, online spaces. They don't watch. Sorry. I still call it Twitter. They don't watch Fox. They don't watch MSNBC. They don't watch they don't read the New York Times. They don't listen to NPR. Like, these are the type of thing, obviously with the exception of Fox, these are the type of things that liberals listen to. Young men, like under the age of 30, they don't listen to or watch any like old traditional media, but they needed to spend millions of dollars studying that. I could have just told you. I have a brother who he hasn't watched TV in years. He's a few years younger than me. He's 10 years younger than me. Yeah. And so he's exactly in that age cohort. Yeah. And it's just incredible that the Democratic Party needed to spend millions of dollars to figure out, like, what content do they consume? Well, why don't you just ask your sons? Like, Jake Tapper talked about this when he did this interview with Scott Galloway, where he was like, my son...
he said something funny.
It was like...
he didn't realize how funny it was.
My son wants to be a cop, and all that he cares about is he just wants to help people, and he's really into football, the police, and World War II. and the Democratic Party treats him like the enemy. And then I just wonder, well, this is why you effers, he dropped an expletive, and he's like, this is why you effers keep losing, because you hate these people. And then you and I listened to this, and we were like, Jake, I've got some news for
bad
you.
News, buddy.
Who's gonna tell him?
As soon as he said, my son likes World War II, I immediately knew. I'm like,
well, so, and now again, let's look at a couple of Democrats that do seem to have gotten it right. Scott Galloway seems to get something. Jake Tapper seems to have some recognition of what's going on. Gavin Newsom is another one who he is recognized. One of the critiques that he was getting is he was kind of going through and trying to figure out what went wrong. Charlie Kirk told this to him, I think it was. He goes, you guys are not willing to sit down in long form conversation. You're not willing to do it because it never works in your favor. So Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and Vivek, they're going around during the last presidential campaign.
Multi-hour-long
interviews where you don't get the questions ahead of time, no script, no nothing. We showed something the other day where the Jubilee are the people that run this program where it's 1 against 20. And they were saying, well, you always have conservatives on there. It's always a conservative message. Like, you need to be more liberal. And he goes, we agree the left won't come on. Like, it's really hard.
They're starting to try to drag some people
starting to try to do it. He goes, but the left always says, oh, we're not sure. Can we get the questions ahead of time? Can we do all this other stuff? Right. And so Newsom has been trying to work his way into this. And what ends up happening is he goes on a place like Sean Ryan, and Sean Ryan is not an in-your-face interviewer, right? Sean Ryan asks very genuine questions. He may give you some pushback. He may ask you some hard questions, but he's not there to do gotcha stuff, right?
He's very similar to Joe Rogan in that respect.
Yeah, and again, even Gavin Newsom, who's very, very polished as a candidate, right? Gavin Newsom goes on there, and it's like, dude, you end up looking like the clips that get cut and sent out are never in their favor. And so there is this problem, but from the overall, and I'm going to let you finish us out with this, but from the overall Democrat perspective, when you look at who they're trying to appeal to and trying to get their messaging right and trying to get leadership, and that's why Gavin Newsom is doing this. He wants to be the leader of this new Democratic Party that is able to message Democrat policies out to a broader and diverse audience and to all the people that they're losing. And what they're finding out is that the places they have to go to do this and the internal questions that they have to ask, it's going to require them to actually be brave enough to go in for unscripted long form interviews. Good luck, right? It's going to require them to actually reach out to demographics that they haven't just ignored. They have built a base around actively attacking this group of people that they're now trying to bring in. And you're going to have a hard time appealing to those people without, one, convincing them that you're just a fraud. You don't really care about me. You just care about my vote. And two, how do you genuinely reach out to those people without alienating this base you've created around hating these people? That's a contradiction, right? So all of this is going on at the same time where now they don't have the same power. Tina, you brought this up earlier. They don't have the same power of the mainstream media because the voters that they need to reach out to don't watch the mainstream media. They don't have the same power of Hollywood, not because Hollywood is in their camp, but because I would rather watch Nerdrotic, Critical Drinker, or Disparu talk about a Hollywood movie than actually pay the money to go see it in the theaters, right? So they have and they can't count on USAID, Planned Parenthood, and all these other groups to get billions of my tax dollars to then fund the NGOs that push their ideological narrative and then donate to Democrat campaigns. So they are running leadership issues, messaging issues, cohesion issues, funding issues. Dude, that is politics.